So the initial thought was, no, not the sand pit, anything but the sand pit. But that's you don't want to psych yourself out straight away, and so that's how day 3 started. Was get your stuff, move up here, and we got in a line, and we weren't sure what to expect, if we were going to have to do low crawls again. But it turns out we had to run a form of laps, or suicide, well, not really suicides, but laps, where we would start off with increments of 2. So at the starting line we would do 2 push-ups. We would drop to our backs and do 2 flutter kicks, 4 count flutter kicks, so 1, 2, so right and left leg both going to count as 1 rep, and then 2 squat jumps. So that means that not only are you jumping, but you're going down into a squat and then jumping and returning to a squat and then jumping. Start off with 2, go to the finish line or the midpoint, which would be the opposite end of the sand pit, and do additional 2. Run back to the starting line and start off with 4. You get the point. The pattern goes on and on and on, all the way up to 20, and then we had to start counting backwards down to 18, 16, 14, 20. Yeah. All right. So all told, he ended up calling it for me on the return trip at 12. I had reached 12 climbing back down that ladder, which means that I did today 340 push-ups, flutter kicks, and squat jumps. 340. That's a lot. And I guess I was really happy with how I did, because about 60 to 75% of those push-ups I did unmodified. So that means I did between 200 and 250 or so push-ups, straight up plank style. And I was pretty happy with that. Not only happy with the fact that I was able to do that, but then that I was able to keep up with the top guys in the class. So I was among the top 5 or 6 finishers. I was the only female that finished that fast, and I beat out about, I don't know, 5 or 6 other guys. And so I don't know, that's my competitive edge coming out. But it was a good accomplishment. I can smile about it now, but it wasn't necessarily what I was feeling at that moment. And I guess really, as I've been walking back from dropping my son off at the bus stop today, it's been interesting doing this video log and then also recalling what it is that I felt today, because it's very similar to what it brought up, which is the fact that I remember after I was out of the hospital and in that first points of recovery, I would have to take my son to school in December, and December last year was pretty rough in terms of the weather systems and whatnot. And so not only was I dealing with the elements of the wind and the rain and the snow and the cold, I was also dealing with my physical ailments that were still very much healing and recovering. And it was everything I could do to put one foot in front of the other. I mean, literally, physically, one step at a time. And I would have to stop along the 6-block walk to the bus stop and rest. And not only rest because I was fatigued, because my body had been flat on its back in a hospital bed for a month, but it was physically pained from what I was experiencing. You don't really think much about how much work your brain does, but it is constantly working, and it's always evaluating and processing not only what you see and what you hear and what you feel, but how the body is coping with it. And so things like the winter elements are taxing not only on a physical level, but on a mental level, because then your brain has to process and monitor your body's reactions, its health, its safety, whole 9 yards. And my brain really couldn't cope a lot with factoring in all of those different stimuli. So it made it very difficult to deal with that walk.